We're going to be checking out this video called How Kelly Oubre Jr. Spent His First $1 Million in the NBA from GQ Sports. And I always find it interesting how these pro athletes end up spending their money.
It's $1 million, y'all. Sheesh. What's up, everybody? It's Kelly Oubre Jr., aka Tsunami Poppy. I'm here with GQ Sports, and today I'm going to tell you how I spent my first $1 million. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, 2005. Relocated to Houston, Texas, all the way up until my senior year in high school. Growing up, early stages, life was, not extravagant at all. I give credit to my dad for working his butt off, my whole life to provide for us. I think
That's pretty cool that he's giving credit to his dad for working pretty hard.
that instills a lot of me. Me and my dad, my whole life. Something that he definitely instilled in me is financial literacy. He made sure that I wasn't, spending outrageous at an early age.
Let's see about that, right? Because again, we're talking about someone who's going to get paid millions and millions of dollars. Let's just see how good you are at financial literacy.
I know how to make money, and I know how to invest it and continue to save as well. My first 9 games in Kansas, I didn't play at all, so, and I was really humbled from that experience. I eventually got the opportunity to play and showcase my potential, my skill set, and translate it into the league. So everything happens for a reason. Ton of anxiety. My life was definitely about to change. Everything that I had worked for, was coming to life. Obviously, draft night, I was blessed to, get drafted. Period.
And the thing is, there's probably a lot of guys who try to go after getting drafted that never make it ever.
It was a very exciting feeling, of course, but it was also scary because more money, more problems.
Now, I do like that kind of mindset that he was actually scared of this amount of money because a lot of people who end up getting like a massive, massive sum of money just deposited straight into their account, they're like, oh, great. Now I just won the lottery. I'm going to spend it all, you know? Drafted by the Atlanta Hawks in 2015, round 1, pick number 15, but traded to the Wizards. 3-year, $6 million contract with the Washington Wizards. $6 million ain't too bad. So that's what, $2 million a year? That ain't bad.
Do you remember the contracts with the Suns and the Sound Hornets? Oh, 2-year deals. 2-year deal in Phoenix, 2-year 30 mil, and then I signed it.
Wow, and then he got a 30 million deal and 25 million deal. That's a lot of money.
2-year 25 mil deal with Charlotte. Here are the details of my contract with the Suns and the Hornets.
Okay. 2019 to 2021, 2-year, 30 million contract with Phoenix Suns, which, obviously, since this is 2021, this video already completed. 2021 to 2022, 24.6 million contract with Charlotte Hornets with 17 million guaranteed. That's a lot of money.
Alright, so enough of how I made my first $1 million. Let's talk about how I spent my first $1 million.
Now, also keep in mind, how he spent his first $1 million. We're basically going back to where he was only making 2 million a year. I love how I say only because I mean $2 million a year is massive, but just keep that in mind.
First thing I bought when I first got money was Mercedes Benz AMG G Wagon. And then I eventually got it wrapped too, which, comes out to another good 6,000, on the wrap, matte black, painted rims, all that good stuff. That was just my soldier, you know what I'm saying? It was my baby. The G Wagon was about 250,000.
$250,000 for the G Wagon. Now, again, the crazy thing about it, G Wagons are kind of a unique car where the majority of people who end up buying that car, use it for a massive, massive tax write-off because it fits like this certain type of category in the tax system where you could basically write off, I think, almost the whole price of the car in terms of like tax write-offs, just because of how heavy it is. That being said, $200,000 out of $1 million right off the bat is pretty darn disturbing, especially since he led off with the comment that his dad taught him about basically financial literacy. So that's a little bit disturbing to see. Now, it's also funny if he still has that vehicle right now, he might actually be able to sell that car for more than what he actually bought it for simply because of the craziness in the car market right now.
Next thing I purchased, I had to get a condo in Washington D.C., which was ranked the most expensive city at the time on rent. So I think it totaled up to about 200.
You spent $200,000 on rent? That is an absurd amount of money for rent. Again, rent. Not a mortgage, not anything like that. Rent. Wow.
100,000. DC, man, two-bedroom apartment. And the thing with rent is like,
By the way, just think about it for a second. He's already spent $450,000 out of the $1 million without any saving, without any investing yet.
you have to find somewhere to lay your head that's comfortable. And I'm very picky when it comes to picking houses because I like my interior to look a certain way. Like I could have got a one-bedroom somewhere right next to the gym, but I've never been that guy. I always got to do it a little more elegant, you know.
And yet you said that your dad basically taught you about financial literacy and not to just spend all of your money. Kind of sad.
Had to get furniture as well for the spot. I had to get a cloud couch from Restoration Hardware. I got a free Casper mattress in there. I went to Costco and got a guest bedroom bed for the guest bedroom, and then I just got some art from Wayfair.
$10,000. Again, this is kind of like weird because like you're spending 10 grand to furnish a place that you don't even own.
Another backstory: my dad had got bitten in the head by a pit bull when he was younger, so I used to always ask him for a dog, and he, hell no, we're not getting a dog. And then, when I got to the league, I bought my own two dogs. Bought a dog, it was $5,000 in itself. I had him for the first year that I was in the league, and then my second year in the league, I bought another dog. She was 7,000. It was a mini Frenchie. Those are my babies, my first pets. I only bought Soul because Saint used to be so lonely, and I used to be on the road, and he used to have to go to a dog watcher. So I spent about 12 bands on my two dogs.
Spending 12 grand on your dogs because they're designer dogs. I mean, it's a lot of money to be spending on dogs, especially when you could just, adopt a dog, right? That's in a shelter, that's, about to get offed, right? For basically no reason. But still, $12,000 compared to his, at that time, 2 million per year income from just his contract isn't that big of a deal. That being said, it it seems like there's already a trend of him basically spending his money willy nilly.
My first rookie contract. I bought a set of diamond teeth, four single teeth up top, and a whole grill. Probably ran me about $8,000. And then I bought
Again, it's just like constant spending money.
a little guitar chain. It was my first chain ever, rocking the mess out that thing. Really was just trying to get a piece of gold around my neck to match my watch and my teeth. So I was flexing for that for a little bit. So that probably ran me about what, 1,500. Really was just Trying to get a piece of gold around my neck to match my watch. I purchased two Fleur de Lis chains for Saint and Soul. You know, my dogs at the time. Probably ran me about 7 bands as well.
Now again, like 7 grand for jewelry ain't that bad in comparison to his 2 year income, like his like 2 million per year income. But still, like again, he is continuously showing the habit of spending and spending and spending. We still haven't seen anything about saving or investing yet.
I bought two black diamond rings from Jason in Beverly Hills. One was just like this, actually, without the spin. The other one was like an octagon shape. That was, my rookie contract. Those ran me about 13,000 together.
So $60,000 in jewelry. Wow. Wow. That's crazy.
My pops has been the least overhead for me because he don't really want anything. He never wanted gifts or anything like that either. But he's very low maintenance. He doesn't need too much. My first year he got a little apartment in DC. It was about 2 bands a month, so about 24,000 on rent for him. The first year he got a Mercedes Benz S450. He knew what he wanted. He said, "I want this." For my pops, I probably would say I would spend $50,000 my first year. You know,
Okay, like the $50,000 spending on your like dad because he was like the big supporter in your life and basically allowed your family to basically survive throughout the whole time. That's not really that big of a deal, really.
I was partnered with this school in Washington, D.C. called New Ellington. I set up a seminar series called Black Boys Rock the Arts for all the younger kids in the school who just needed inspiration. It was a creative arts school, so I sat through design class with them. I sat through guitar class with them. I hosted about 2 or 3 seminars. At the end of the year, I gave away 25 scholarships to the seniors trying to, further themselves and go to
Now that is pretty cool to see.
college. So just trying to inspire and pretty much trying to get back to the next generation is, what my purpose was. I'm just happy that I was able to do that. I had guest speakers like Brian Leslie, Harris, Afrobeat artists, the best money that I spent, within this set in my first contract.
So $25,000 for basically doing scholarships, pretty much. That's pretty cool.
Also, the NBPA actually matched my 25,000. So, each kid got about $2,000.
Oh, finally, we're going to go into the investments.
Definitely, a big part of this stuff was learning through my mistakes. Big trading companies like Apple, Nike, Chase, a lot of banks. I really was able to learn about the stock market, and I made back a lot of the money that I spent, just by smart investing. I also learned to study GIA certified diamonds. I have a regret of buying the guitar chain with SI diamonds. I should have never done that. You would be surprised though. Hey, your favorite rapper might be wearing SI diamonds, and you wouldn't even know because you ain't question. Stay woke, my people. One thing that I did invest in, I invested in myself. I spent about $10,000 to $15,000 just creating LLCs for businesses and ideas that I had. My grandma died also my second, third year in the league. I created a mark called Beyond for Me, which was, pretty much infinite life. It was just for her. Me being inspired by, that whole process of grieving. That's another 5,000.
Okay, yeah, that's not that big of a deal. But $25,000 in investments, like, really, that's it. Because you gotta keep in mind, from what he said, right? His $25,000 investment somehow covered all the money that he just spent. Doubt it, right? Unless they're doing something crazy risky, I highly doubt it, right? Because we're talking about 200,000 in rent, 10,000 in furniture, 12K on dogs, 60K on jewelry, 50,000 on the pops, right? 25,000 on the charities, right? Yeah, $25,000 in investments would never cover that unless you do something crazy risky.
My second year in the league, I bought my mom a crib in New Orleans. It was a blessing for me because at the end of the day, she's been living I was still on my rookie contract, but I knew that my next contract was coming, so I definitely wanted to do something for her because at the end of the day, I didn't want to have her moving from house to house, New Orleans real estate.
Now the thing is, right? Like I perfectly understand him wanting to buy his mom a house, but to buy her a house before he were to actually get his next contract is scary, right? Because again, this is kind of showing that he has a habit of spending money pretty often without really thinking too much ahead, which is scary to see because you don't want to see him in a situation where he ends up spending all of his money, right? Like, let's say that he didn't get that next contract and he spent all this money. He'd be screwed, right? So, I just want him to be careful. I want all these pro athletes to be careful so that when they do end up getting this amount of money, they don't end up like losing everything.
It's not too crazy. So, it was about 240,000.
$240,000 isn't that bad for a house. That being said, again, like so far, we still haven't really seen basically any investments from you.
Wanted her to kind of find a place that she likes. We had some options that we went through, and then we settled with the one that she's in right now. It was a blessing. Like I let her do her thing. She was just happy in herself. Feel gratitude that I was able to buy her a home. Yeah, it wasn't any keys, surprise name, or anything. It was just her, signing the paper, signing her name on the house, and then having something of her own.
By the way, side note, many people don't know this, but typically speaking, if you were to buy a house for someone and then you like basically gift it to them, more than likely they are also going to have to pay taxes on it unless you end up footing the bill for the taxes as well. So the $240,000 is actually much more than that.
So my second year in the league, the summer, I purchased 2018 AMG GT. I wanted the SLS, but they were sold out everywhere, or they were hitting for a good, pretty penny. So I went with the AMG GT, and I called her the Bane Mobile. Yeah, I got Bane tatted on me. Respect to Bruce Wayne, but I like Bane, because he makes people feel like they're in charge when they in charge. I had the Bane Mobile, you know what I'm saying? It was about 140.
$140,000 on another car, right? So he bought technically three cars because he bought his dad a car as well within the first 2 years of his career, totaling over $450,000. Like, or over $400,000 basically. Like that's a lot of money that he's spending on vehicles.
I paid another 10 to get it wrapped matte black, just like my G wagon. So, I got the G wagon, now I got the GT, and I get to drive a different car. You know what I'm saying? Every other day if I want to. So I was feeling real good. At the end of the day, when you on a team full of young, eccentric guys who show their money off really well, you kind of are motivated to do the same in some senses. So I stepped out of character. I got the GT. I was flexing. Young Rook out here.
Again, like basically he even like just mentioned it, like he succumbed to peer pressure from his other teammates where they're flashing all their money and he ends up spending a disgusting amount of money for almost no reason. Like because think about it. You could get an older Mercedes AMG GT for under 100. Okay? You could get an old Mercedes Benz AMG G Wagon for under probably 100 as well, right? Like he could have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars just on those alone, right? He could have saved quite literally probably over $100,000 on rent by not being so picky about the specific look of the place, right? So it all comes down because like here's the thing, personal finance is personal. And from what this video shows is that it is very easy for him to end up spending money for not really much reason. And for the most part, it doesn't really matter because, with his contracts that he's signed, he's got paid like over $50 million, right? Because of his contracts. That being said, how much of that is he actually spending? His money, right? That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that he ends up literally just blowing through all of his money, even endorsement money and all that kind of stuff. Like that's really scary to see. Wow. But yeah, hopefully he changes his spending ways because you don't want to end up losing all this amount of money